rising cost of materials, including electrical wires, has led to concerns among electrical contractors. Here are some strategies that contractors are considering to cope with this issue. Firstly, careful planning and execution. Plan projects more thoroughly. Conduct thorough site surveys and material takeoffs to minimize potential errors and waste. Optimize cut lengths and minimize scrap. Use software or calculators to determine the optimal cut lengths for wires and minimize the amount of excess wire discarded. Secondly, reducing overkill. Avoid oversizing. Determine the actual current carrying capacity required for each circuit and use the appropriate wire gauge. Consider voltage drop calculations. Ensure that the wire size selected is sufficient to minimize voltage drop and ensure proper operation of equipment. Thirdly, cost management. Negotiate with suppliers. Explore discounts, bulk purchases, and extended payment terms with suppliers to reduce costs. Compare prices. Check prices from multiple suppliers before making purchases to find the best deals. Consider alternative materials. If possible, explore alternative, less expensive materials that meet the project requirements. Fourthly, passing on costs. Adjust pricing. Pass on the increased material costs to clients by adjusting pricing or charging for materials separately. Explain to clients. Clearly communicate the reasons for increased material costs to clients and provide justification for any price adjustments. Fifthly, other strategies. Invest in inventory management. Maintain a carefully managed inventory of materials to avoid shortages and unnecessary purchases. Consider value engineering. Explore opportunities to reduce material costs without compromising the quality or safety of the installation. Stay informed. Monitor market trends and industry announcements to stay abreast of changes in material pricing and availability. By implementing these strategies, electrical contractors can mitigate the impact of rising material costs while maintaining profitability and providing quality installations for their client. When planning projects more thoroughly, consider using Building Information Modeling, or BIM, software. This allows for detailed 3D models of electrical systems, which can help identify potential clashes or inefficiencies before construction begins. BIM can also assist in generating accurate material takeoffs, reducing the risk of ordering incorrect quantities. When conducting site surveys and material takeoffs, pay close attention to the routing of cables and conduits. Look for opportunities to shorten runs and minimize bends, as these can increase material usage and labor costs. Consider using cable trays or ladder racks to support cables, as these can be more efficient than individual cable supports. When optimizing cut lengths and minimizing scrap, it's essential to train electricians on proper cutting techniques. Encourage them to carefully measure and cut wires to the required length, avoiding unnecessary waste. Implement a system for collecting and reusing scrap wire whenever possible. Smaller pieces of wire can often be used for jumpers or other short connections. When avoiding oversizing, it's crucial to understand the ampacity of different wire gauges. Refer to the National Electrical Code, or NEC, Table 310.15b16 for ampacity ratings. Remember to consider directing factors for ambient temperature and the number of conductors in a raceway. For example, if you have 4 current-carrying conductors in a conduit, you'll need to direct the ampacity of the wires to 80% of their listed value. This means that a 12 American wire gauge, or AUG, copper wire, which typically has an ampacity of 30 amps, would be derated to 24 amps. When calculating voltage drop, use the following formula: voltage drop equals 2 times K times I times D divided by circular mils, where K is the direct current resistance for 1000 circular mils foot of conductor, I is the current in amps, D is the one-way distance in feet, and circular mils is the cross-sectional area of the conductor. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop to 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction and reduce energy efficiency. When negotiating with suppliers, don't be afraid to ask for discounts, especially on large orders. Build strong relationships with your suppliers and let them know that you are always looking for the best prices. Consider joining a buying group to leverage the collective purchasing power of multiple contractors. When comparing prices, be sure to factor in shipping costs and lead times. Sometimes it's worth paying a little more to get materials quickly, especially if it prevents project delays. When considering alternative materials, be cautious and ensure that the chosen materials meet all applicable codes and standards. For example, aluminum wire is sometimes used as a less expensive alternative to copper wire, but it has different ampacity and termination requirements. When adjusting pricing, be transparent with your clients about the reasons for increased material costs. Provide them with detailed breakdowns of material costs and explain how these costs are affecting the overall project price. Consider using a cost-plus pricing model, where you charge clients for the actual cost of materials plus a markup for your overhead and profit. When investing in inventory management, use software to track your material usage and inventory levels. This will help you avoid shortages and overstocking. Implement a just-in-time inventory system, where you order materials only when you need them. When considering value engineering, look for opportunities to simplify the design or use less expensive components without compromising the quality or safety of the installation. For example, you might be able to use a smaller conduit size or a different type of lighting fixture. When staying informed, subscribe to industry publications and attend trade shows to stay up to date on the latest trends in material pricing and availability. Monitor government regulations and policies that could affect material costs, such as tariffs or environmental regulations. When determining the actual current carrying capacity required for each circuit, consider the load types that will be connected to the circuit. Different types of loads have different current draw characteristics. For example, motors typically have a high inrush current when they start, which needs to be factored into the wire sizing calculations. When selecting the appropriate wire gauge, also consider the ambient temperature in the area where the wires will be installed. Higher ambient temperatures can reduce the ampacity of wires. Refer to NEC Table 310.15 for ampacity correction factors based on ambient temperature. When calculating voltage drop, consider the power factor of the load. Loads with a low power factor, such as inductive loads, will cause a greater voltage drop than loads with a high power factor. Use power factor correction capacitors to improve the power factor of inductive loads. When exploring discounts with suppliers, ask about volume discounts, early payment discounts, and loyalty discounts. Some suppliers also offer discounts for paying with cash or check instead of credit card. When checking prices from multiple suppliers, be sure to compare apples to apples. Make sure you are comparing the same quality and type of materials. Consider using a price comparison website or app to quickly compare prices from different suppliers. When exploring alternative materials, consider the long-term cost of ownership, including maintenance and replacement costs. Sometimes a more expensive material may be cheaper in the long run due to its longer lifespan or low maintenance requirements. When communicating the reasons for increased material costs to clients, be empathetic and understanding. Let them know that you are doing everything you can to keep costs down while still providing a high-quality installation. Consider offering clients different options with varying levels of material costs. This will allow them to choose the option that best fits their budget. When maintaining a carefully managed inventory of materials, organize your inventory in a way that makes it easy to find and retrieve materials. Use labeling and color coding to identify different types of materials. Conduct regular inventory audits to ensure that your inventory records are accurate. When exploring opportunities to reduce material costs without compromising quality or safety, consider using prefabricated components. Prefabricated components can often be installed more quickly and efficiently than field-fabricated components. When monitoring market trends and industry announcements, pay attention to factors that could affect material supply, such as natural disasters, political instability, and economic conditions. Develop contingency plans to address potential material shortages. When determining the appropriate wire gauge, consult with a qualified electrical engineer or inspector to ensure that your calculations are accurate and that the installation meets all applicable codes and standards. When calculating voltage drop, use a voltage drop calculator or software to simplify the calculations. These tools can help you quickly and accurately determine the voltage drop for different wire sizes and circuit lengths. When negotiating with suppliers, be prepared to walk away if you are not getting a good deal. There are many different suppliers out there, so don't be afraid to shop around. When considering alternative materials, research the properties of the materials and make sure they are compatible with the application. For example, some materials may not be suitable for use in wet or corrosive environments. When explaining price adjustments to clients, provide them with a written estimate or proposal that clearly outlines the material costs and labor costs. This will help them understand the breakdown of the total project cost. When managing your inventory, consider using a barcode scanner or RFID system to track materials. This can help you improve inventory accuracy and reduce the risk of theft. When exploring value engineering opportunities, involve all stakeholders in the process, including the client, the architect, and the engineer. This will help you identify the best solutions that meet everyone's needs. When staying informed about market trends, attend industry conferences and workshops to learn about the latest developments in electrical materials and technology. When determining the appropriate wire gauge, remember to consider the grounding conductor. The size of the grounding conductor is typically based on the size of the ungrounded conductors. Refer to NEC Table 250.122 for grounding conductor sizing requirements. When calculating voltage drop, consider the impact of harmonics on the circuit. Harmonics can increase the voltage drop and cause overheating of conductors. Use harmonic filters to reduce the impact of harmonics. When negotiating with suppliers, ask about quantity discounts. Many suppliers offer discounts for purchasing materials in bulk. When considering alternative materials, make sure they are listed and labeled by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories or UL. This will ensure that the materials meet safety and performance standards. When explaining price adjustments to clients, be prepared to answer their questions and address their concerns. Be patient and understanding and try to find a solution that works for everyone. When managing your inventory, implement a system for tracking the expiration dates of materials, such as sealants and adhesives. This will help you avoid using expired materials that may not perform properly. When exploring value engineering opportunities, consider using energy-efficient lighting and equipment. This can reduce energy consumption and lower operating costs for the client. When staying informed about market trends, subscribe to industry newsletters and online forums to stay up to date on the latest news and information. When determining the appropriate wire gauge, consider the future expansion of the electrical system. It's often a good idea to oversize the wires to accommodate future loads. When calculating voltage drop, consider the impact of motor starting currents. Motor starting currents can cause a significant voltage drop, which can affect the performance of other equipment on the circuit. When negotiating with suppliers, ask about financing options. Some suppliers offer financing options that can help you manage your cash flow. When considering alternative materials, consider the environmental impact of the materials. Choose materials that are sustainable and environmentally friendly. When explaining price adjustments to clients, be prepared to provide documentation to support your claims. This could include invoices, price quotes, and market reports. When managing your inventory, implement a system for tracking the location of materials on the job site. This will help you avoid losing or misplacing materials. When exploring value engineering opportunities, consider using standardized components and designs. This can reduce the cost of materials and labor. When staying informed about market trends, network with other contractors and industry professionals to share information and best practices. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and local codes for specific requirements and regulations.